Welcome to the latest instalment of our In Conversation series, where we speak with senior marketers from across Australia and New Zealand about what's really affecting their world and how technology is disrupting the foundations of marketing today. Today, I'm really happy to have Danielle Uskovic here, who is the head of digital from Lenovo, joining us, who's going to be talking about digital disruption, talking about what they're doing on LinkedIn and what the future holds for many marketers. Thank you, Danielle, for taking part on our In Conversation series, where we speak with senior marketers from Australia, talking about change and a little bit about their sort of career and their history and where do they find success. You are now head of digital at Lenovo, but you've got a relatively interesting sort of career history in how you became the head of digital. Would you like to sort of share with us what that history is?
Yeah, sure. I actually started my career in sales. I actually worked for a company that started selling the internet in Australia way back when, many years ago. So I used to have to convince businesses that they needed a 56K modem and be connected to the internet. So that was really the foray of my career, starting in sales. And then as I sort of progressed in sales leadership, I moved into marketing because I saw that the marketing team was having much more fun.
And your role as head of digital, it can mean different things to different organizations and different people. What does it mean to you, and what success is really as the head of digital for Lenovo?
Yeah, look, I think the marketing department has changed considerably over the last few years. And so for me, I think that the marketing team needs to be a futurist. And because if you really look at what marketing is doing today, it's technology driven. And for me, being a futurist means to look externally outside of the company, look at what else is happening, look at the technologies that are affecting businesses. You know, if you look at digital transformation, if you look at how it's upending, you know, pretty much every industry. For me, you know, being in marketing is really being at the forefront and making sure that you stay on top of those trends and things that are happening and making sure that you bring it back into the organization.
Do you think that your background in sales has sort of impacted or affected how you approach marketing, and do you think it's been beneficial?
Yeah, absolutely. I think, you know, having that good foundation in sales has definitely helped. You know, I've lived and breathed what a salesperson goes through, so I understand that, you know, from a marketing perspective, I need to then grow and drive the business in making sure that I get my salespeople in front of their customers as much as possible.
And I think we always have talked about sales and marketing alignment and the blurring. You know, are you seeing this at Lenovo in terms of the blurring of the line between sales and marketing, and potentially what do you see driving it?
Yeah, look, absolutely. I absolutely believe that it is blurring. If you look at how technology is really driving the change in marketing, everything is being digitized. So we need technology now more than ever to actually know, you know, what our customer is doing. And that technology is driving the whole marketing team. So it actually means that from our perspective in the marketing department, we need to map the customer journey end to end. And we're getting pretty close to being able to do that. From a sales perspective, the blurring is that they now need to position themselves as thought leaders and market themselves in different ways than they've had to before. And they need to use things like social media to really help lift their profile and build that professional brand for themselves.
And you mentioned technology and how it's affecting. Do you think it's affecting marketing more than sales, or sales more than marketing? Is there one that sort of is benefiting more?
I actually think that it's affecting both. If you really look at technology and the way that it's driving both of the departments, you know, you've got sales that are using technology from a CRM perspective, you've got the marketing team that's using everything from marketing technology to advertising technology. You need to connect it all together. So I think it's pretty much even with how it's affecting like the whole industry of marketing and sales. And it's really important that both of them understand how to use those technologies.
And you know, everyone has probably seen that Lumascape with the thousands of marketing tech. We're seeing sales tech come on as well. What are sort of the low-hanging fruit for anyone who is looking at, you know, I need some wins with technology from a marketing perspective? Where do you think some low-hanging fruit is?
I think putting the customer first is absolutely at the forefront. I think if you can put the customer first, you actually will be able to make great gains. So, you know, looking at all of that technology, for me, it's simplifying it. Look at what systems you have in place today, look at the processes that you have in place today, and just simplify. Look at what is independent out there and look at what can actually plug into what you have today to try and really understand your customer and use that data effectively.
So you mentioned customer journeys a little while ago. In terms of looking at the customer journey today, do you think that we're ever going to get to the point where we can fully automate it? And potentially, what does that do to the role of the sales professional?
Yeah, look, I think that's a great question. Look, technology is advancing, exponentially. And if you look at things like artificial intelligence, you look at the increased computing power that's available today, I think there will be a point where we can automate almost everything. But I suppose for me, it's relationships still matter, and particularly in the B2B space. And when you're talking about, thousands to millions of dollars of investment that are being made by decision makers in, certain technologies or services or products, I think you still need to have that personal touch. And I think that's what makes us human, is having those relationships. So I still think that that's important. So I think, yes, we can automate a lot of it, but I hope that, the human touch still remains. I think it's important.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think it's definitely important in terms of, it's a philosophical question. Is there a price point at which the salesperson has to come in, that buyer needs to de-risk that buying decision? You would suggest then there definitely is. There's going to be always a limit at which we need to deal with a face-to-face salesperson. Yeah,
well, I hope so. I think just from the human perspective, I hope so. But look, you look at now, people are buying PCs online. They're buying, big ticket items online. You can order your Tesla online. So I think there is things that you can do, and it will keep going up. But, I really just hope that human touch remains.
Yeah. So in terms of Lenovo, I want to sort of switch a bit to LinkedIn. We're talking about social technology and technology in general. You've done some pretty interesting and I think really great stuff on the platform in terms of your content marketing strategy and also your sales strategy. Would you sort of talk a little bit more about how you've thought about LinkedIn as a digital channel for content distribution?
Yeah, look, so for us, LinkedIn is absolutely a strategic partner on both the sales side and the marketing side. I think it's important that the two work together. So from a sales perspective, we've rolled out Sales Navigator across all of Asia Pacific to all of our salespeople, and we've also done that across all of our marketing teams. So we're getting our salespeople more involved in that whole process of social selling, really lifting their brand and using content at the forefront to then position themselves as thought leaders. On the marketing side, on the flip side of that is, we're developing content that is really positioned at, our target audience, which is the IT decision maker. And we're also getting our salespeople and our executives and our marketing teams to produce content personally and post it on LinkedIn. And we then promote that content as well through the platform so that it reaches the right audience. So it's really trying to create a synergy between both the sales teams and the marketing teams and both functions.
And I think actually it brings me up, there's an interesting stat that I read just today actually, the IDC say by 2020, 50% or I think the majority of the content that a customer will receive will actually not be managed by the marketing team. But because of these customer journeys and they're finding content on social platforms, is that scary? Is that as expected? And what do you think you can do to try and to manage the potential risk in this?
Yeah, look, I think the marketing team needs to embrace it. And I think absolutely with the digitization of everything, as I was saying before, and just the fact that with the customer journey, that now your decision makers can pretty much do all of their research, they can do all their comparisons, they can do everything online before they even reach out to you. It's so important to control some of that content if you can. So for us, we run advocacy programs, which is, we empower our employees to amplify Lenovo content. We teach them how to produce their own content so that they're seen as thought leaders and can lift their own personal brand. We do that for our sales and marketing team, and we also do that for our executive team. We also work very closely with influencers that are passionate about our brand. So I think there is a way that as a marketing team you can help control some of that to some respect. And I think the more that you do that and you have the real brand advocates, which are your employees, talking about how great your brand is, you're already in a better winning position.
And I think we're talking about content a lot here, and your site, the Tech Revolution, is particularly of interest. I think in terms of how we've scored it, we think it's clearly leading the pack. How did you, and I want to sort of maybe ask a more strategic question in terms of how did you actually get buy-in from your organization? Because this thing is not gated, you know, driving leads or identifying who those leads are is going to be difficult. Was there any complexity around getting that buy-in from your sales leads or business leads?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, from everything from implementing Sales Navigator through to producing content, which was really upper funnel, which wasn't branded Lenovo, it was a tough sell. But I think the most important point there is to get your executives, you know, on board early on in the piece and show them that you've got to test and learn and you've got to do things differently to get a different outcome. And you can't continue to do the same thing that you've always done. And, you know, if you want to keep continuing to grow your organization, you've got to look at that. And so some of the stats that I've seen, you know, with people not trusting the branded, you know, corporate message, you know, it's more important to come from the people that work within your organization. So this is just a different approach to really trying to be agnostic, but build the profiles of all of our employees.
And in terms of, I always like to sort of, you know, finish up and sort of ask all that future gazing, as you said, marketers are future gazers. What are some of the big disruptive things that are going to go on in marketing over the next, you know, some people would say 5 years. I think that's almost too far away now. So in that sort of 2 to 3 year gap that you think is going to change your world?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm so excited about blockchain technology. I think that has the power to upend everything, and everything that I'm reading, it's going to have a massive impact on every industry. It really depends on how, you know, the industries react to it. I actually think that it's going to be a great thing for all industries. You know, artificial intelligence that we spoke before about, I think that as well is one thing that is just advancing so quickly. So I think it is something that is going to be great for automating, great for just, you know, the whole data, you know, understanding what's happening with your data, with your customer. I think putting the customer first. And then obviously I'm a technology company, so things that I'm excited about is virtual reality and augmented reality. There's some exciting things coming, and I think from a marketing perspective, using some of those technologies when it becomes mainstream is going to be really fascinating.
But actually, I'm going to dig in on blockchain a little bit, because I know some people might be going, blockchain, they've heard of it. In terms of something to make it more real, because, you know, I sort of know it as this online ledger that sort of updates itself. Is there something that you can put it into, that will put into perspective for the marketer?
Yeah, I suppose the one that I'm interested most about at the moment is, you know, there's been a lot of negativity around digital marketing and programmatic advertising. I've been doing a lot of reading recently on the fact that, you know, there are companies that are looking at blockchain in really making that whole digital supply chain more transparent. And so if it's an online ledger where it's trusted by, you know, hundreds of ledgers that are out there and they can verify that it's true and real, what that means is that from an advertising perspective, it means as an advertiser, I can advertise on good sites which are safe, which, you know, and I can cut out a lot of the middleman where a lot of the money is lost today. And then the other thing is that it can tell me if you're a real person. So if you're a real person, it means I know that my ad is being seen by a real person. And so that means that I know my dollar is being spent well, you know, and efficiently. So, you know, in a simple sense, it's just really cutting out all that murkiness that you know, is existing today and making it much easier as an advertiser to put an ad out there on a real site in front of a real person.
I think it's, you know, it comes back to this trust, visibility. It's so important now for marketing. Thank you so much for Danielle for taking part. This has been really informative for me, actually. I'd love to know, I want to know a bit more about that blockchain as well. So thank you so much. I know you're doing some great things. I look forward to seeing more of your content from Tech Revolution on the site. And actually, one thing before I leave, is there, in terms of, we've talked a little about technology, we've talked about how marketing need to get close to the sales people. Is there one thing that you think every marketer should be thinking about to help improve themselves and take them forward, potentially if they look to sort of take a role on as a head of digital in the near future? What do you think they should be thinking about and improving?
Great question. I think from a marketing perspective, it's just to continually educate yourself. I think, you've always got to be learning. And the big thing for me, and I say it and I said it before, is test and learn. I think that, as a marketer, that's your job, test and learn, because what worked yesterday may not work today, and what works today is not going to work tomorrow. So you've got to continually look for those opportunities that are really going to drive your business forward.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I'll definitely take that on board. Thank you, Dan.